All right. Hello and welcome to the second edition of our Urban Dialogue series. My name's Emma Sanches. I'm the Urban Hub Assistant and I'm based here in Melbourne, Australia. So the Urban Hub is Plan International's global platform for the coordination of sharing and expansion of knowledge and good practice across programming and influencing in urban contexts. So the purpose of our Urban Dialogue series here on Workplace is to give our brilliant colleagues across the organization the opportunity to showcase recent and innovative reports, practices, and projects in urban contexts. As we're keeping our urban dialogues short and sweet to 10 minutes, we won't be taking any questions during the live event, but we encourage you to ask them in the comment section after the session. So today I am joined by Aftab Alam, who is the Cash and Voucher Specialist, the global lead, and Binod Koirala, who is a Deployable Cash and Markets and Emergencies Specialist. So today we're going to be chatting about their wealth of experience in cash voucher assistance in urban settings and strategies to enhance Plan's approach to it in urban contexts. So first of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to both of you for being here. It's such a privilege to have you.
Most welcome.
So the first question, I'll turn to you, Aftab. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience in cash voucher assistance at Plan?
Thank you very much, Emma, for the beautiful question. And hello, everyone. This is Aftab. I'm the global lead on cash and voucher assistance, as Emma mentioned. Just to start with, when I joined Plan in 2013 on 7th November, when Haiyan was hitting Philippines, that was the first day I was asked to dive into the Philippines typhoon response. And cash and voucher assistance at that time was around 1 to 2 million portfolio, as I was asked, as I was told. And actually, cash and voucher assistance started in Plan in 2011. But slowly, it took a bit of pace. It took a bit of a slow pace, and then when we had typhoon response, I think we had around 5 million euros response in the typhoon in Haiyan in Philippines, and then we then had a major growth across different conflicts across Africa, East and West Africa, Mali, to count a few, and again different natural emergencies and also the conflict and the complex emergencies. And as I speak, we have grown to portfolio from 1 to 2 million to 130 million US dollars at the moment. As I speak, close to 7 in almost 7 years. And we have started to work in around 33 country offices, which is, I think, a great boon for us. But with all humility, I would say that we are still an emerging and developing organization in cash and voucher assistance. We also have a good capacity at the global level as well, and networking. We have been co-chairing the Global Cash and Market Working Group under Global Food Security Cluster for almost 4 years, 2 terms, and I was representing that. I was also one of the technical advisors to CALP, Cash for Learning Partnership, which is a global coalition of cash practitioners. And these are some of our global engagements, and also we participate in different working groups. And then we have trained around 700 staff in Plan, including national offices and country offices, include also the GH staff. I think this itself counts like how we have been working. And if you ask about our capacity, it's only me and Binod. We are only the global team, 2 members, but again, our output speaks like how much we are involved in that, but I would say that we are still a learning organization. And some of the key takeaways is that we have also developed some of the global level guidelines and tools, and the latest is the cash and voucher assistance guidelines, which is also being translated in French and Spanish. And these tools also has a great demand with different peer agencies, with the likes of NRC and World Vision International. They have been using our guidelines and tools. I think that itself is a great boost for us. It's an inspiration. And then we have a commitment paper which says that for all the responses in Plan, why not cash first approach? I think that those are few tools which have been developed at the global level. And the last thing I'd mention is that the growing global consensus and the global discourse on cash and social protection, I think we are highly interested for this and would like to connect and link humanitarian cash with social protection in all our responses as we speak and as we go on. Thank you.
Thanks, Aftab. You have such amazing experience. So we're so lucky to have you here. And it's really great to hear kind of about the breadth of the program because, yeah, I didn't know that there were so many people involved in it. And it's just the two of you at the helm. So it's really great to hear. Binod, turning over to you. From your perspective, what are the key differences between cash voucher assistance in rural and urban contexts?
Look, Emma, principally it is the same. Whether it is rural CVA or urban CVA, we have to follow a certain prescribed project cycle. That is preparedness, assessment, response analysis, design, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, lesson learned, and exit strategy. However, there are some differences in practical terms because of the prevailing operational conditions in the urban areas. For example, urban populations are generally heterogeneous in nature. Most of them are living in informal settlements such as slums. Urban poverty is widespread. There is inequality and vulnerability, which are at a higher level compared to the rural areas. Security conditions are often fragile due to urban gangs, urban violence. And on the other hand, like there are also a number of opportunities, for example, infrastructures, banking sectors, and use of technology. So what does that mean in practical terms is there are 7 key differences between rural CVA and urban CVA. Number one, the need assessment process in urban areas are generally comprehensive. It will require more human resources and use of technology. Number two, urban markets are diverse. They are more responsive in meeting the demand of the people. As we saw in Typhoon Haiyan, they have the capacity to build back quickly and better than the rural markets. And there is also a scope of doing multi-purpose cash grant. Number three, access to technology is a positive side because as we know, like the technology are generally much more advanced in urban areas than in rural areas. It will provide the scope of using electronic transfer systems, better financial service provisions, and access to those services. For example, there might be a possibility of doing e-vouchers or smart cards in urban areas compared to the rural areas. Number four, targeting processes in urban areas are generally comprehensive. Uh, and that will require more time, resources, and energy because we know like urban populations are less cohesive than the rural population. That's why the prospect of doing community-based targeting in urban areas are generally low. Number five, the transfer value in urban areas are generally high because of the cost of living. Number six, the complaint and feedback mechanism in urban areas are more comprehensive because people tend to provide more and more feedbacks. So we need to have a more trained and experienced human resources to handle those complaints and feedbacks. And number seven, there are numerous stakeholders in urban areas, maybe at federal level, regional level, province level, local level, chamber of commerce, CSOs, private sectors, technology companies. So there would be a need of comprehensive and in-depth coordination in urban CBA programming. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you, Binod. It's really interesting to hear that practically it's the same in rural and urban settings, but then contextually it kind of changes everything, especially with the possibilities of digital and urban context. I find that really interesting. So thank you so much for that. That was great. And Aftab, back to you. What would make Plan International's approach and execution of cash voucher assistance more strategic and impactful in your opinion?
That's a very important question. And I must say that I have worked at least in 35 country offices, 30 national offices so far in Plan. And what I've seen is, if you take the example of Egypt or even in Jordan, there are several responses which we have, which is largely urban. Even in Central African Republic, we have certain response in the capital, which is also debatable: is it urban, is it rural? But going by the context and going by the approach, what Binod mentioned above, we have a good mix of urban as well as rural programming. But the first point to make it strategic is that we should acknowledge the importance of urban programming by the organization or by the federation. That is the key aspect, and we should, unless we highlight it, unless we make it public or we segregate it, it wouldn't be strategic, because it somehow gets diluted and we forget, okay, whether we are doing urban or whether we are doing rural programming. And I also remember that we had started a bit of talk about urban 4 to 5 years back in 2015 or 2016, and there was a urban group in Global Food Security Cluster, but somehow I didn't find the appetite at the time in our federation. But now I think maybe the advocacy has given results, has provided, and the output is now we are discussing about urban thing. Second is I would say that we need to have a more capacity in our own organization, especially on an exposure on urban setup and urban programming. And that we need to create sensitization, awareness, and also capacity development programs. And how we do it, I think that maybe we need to introduce in our own system, in the new ERP. I think we have been advocating in our previous SAP or ERP that we need to introduce cash and voucher. I think it took around, for me, to 7 years to maybe, I wouldn't say fully successful, but again, at least we have included the new fields like cash and vouchers in the new ERP, which is a great success. But again, it will be called as a more successful achievement once it is implemented or piloted. It is yet to be piloted. And fourth is we need to have a good funding mechanism, and the funding landscape we know it's decreasing day by day. I think we need to have innovative measures to have good funding mechanism, and that is feasible, which we have a 3-pronged approach, both from the global level, region, country level, and also from the region level as well. That needs a 3-pronged approach. And next point I would emphasize is more on increasing coordination in the officials, like the examples of global platforms. And also, if we see some of the agencies like Oxfam and ICRC who are focusing more on urban context, I think that needs to be really capitalized and also amplified, I would say, for a better outreach. And then plus we have one more internal thing, which we have sponsorship funding. I think if we can diversify this funding to different urban contexts and urban programming, including cash and voucher systems as a modality, I think that will be a great one for us. And because we have internal cycle and internal instrument, but we are hard to utilize it optimally. I think that is one thing we can go. And one point also mentioned, we need to have a good visibility as well. Even though we talk about urban programming, but hardly people understand, I think we need to give a good communication strategy, amplified through proper communication strategy and communication means. And the urban setup, urban hub, which has been set up recently, I think that needs to be really well coordinated, and it needs to well knit. As I was discussing a few days ago, that we need to have a good coordination internally, maybe inter-team or intra-organization, so that we come as a team and we go as a team and we approach as a team, and then we achieve as a team. I hope it is useful.
Yeah, thanks so much. It seems like a lot of what you're saying that would help make your work more strategic and impactful in urban context is a lot of what the Hub is trying to do as well, highlighting the work that we're already doing and the importance of it. So that's really great to hear, especially when encouraging collaborative work across the organization. So that's great. Thank you. One more question. As you both know, we've just come out with a report mapping the urban landscape at Plan International. And I'd love to hear if there were any findings that you thought were the most interesting, or if there were any surprises in the report.
No, thanks for that. We did read the report, and it was very interesting. And maybe a few reflections on that, just to highlight what are the key takeaway points. I think, first of all, it really provides a clear picture on the changing demography across the world, and especially where 2/3 of the world population is living in urban setups. And by 2050, most of them will, by 2050, it will be 2/3 of the population will be covered with urban sector. And most of them will be young people like us, maybe or younger than us, who would be, and if you see the recent crisis or the ongoing crisis at the moment, if you see the Afghan crisis, the crisis in the food insecurity crisis, and most of the people who are migrating or getting displaced are the young adolescents and also the adolescent girls and women. I think that's a key concern, and if I reflect back on the Afghan crisis now, and people who are trying to migrate or leave the airport was mostly men. I think that's really gives a very stark picture, like how is the approach and how are we going to handle this situation. So this will increase now. This is and the trend state will increase. And the second point, I think, which talks about in the report is the rationale and importance and the advantages of urban programming, maybe such as with the changing demography, and also the cost effectiveness, and especially with the large chunk of beneficiaries or communities which is coming up. I think that talks about that is really discussed in the report. It also highlights the limitation of Plan International's current strategy on urban issue. I think we have been discussing that we need to amplify it, we need to coordinate it, and an example, the current strategy doesn't provide a clear, articulated urban component, nor does it signal such as an urban component should be developed and resourced. I think that's where we need to work on it. We need to do some groundwork and strategize it and make it more integrated and holistic. And then how do we know that what is happening in urban mapping? That is possible through mapping only. And this, I think, the report connected to mapping and provide a good insight. Around 37 country offices and around more than 10 have undertaken urban programming, which is a rough idea of that. And that's around 87% of the CEOs have urban programming experience. I think that itself talks volume that we need to emphasize in future as well. And the report also indicates that approximately we have spent around 26 million euros in FY 2020, which is great for an organization like Plan International. So that itself is an evidence that we should be having a clear strategy in future. It also highlights the linkage and the scope between sponsorship and urban programming. It also talks about the linkage with the AOGDs, that is areas of global distinctions, and highlight the importance of grant funding for urban programming. If you see, for example, of country program, it itself runs on a whole grants. It's nothing. There is no sponsorship fund there. So which means it is feasible to go with the grant funding, maybe to run a country office, and majority of them is also running projects in the urban context as well. It also highlights the certain programmatic limitations, that is lack of urban programming monitoring. And also it links to our ERP system, which does not locate urban locations, which means this is also an advocacy, that report is also advocacy to include the fields like the urban location. It's very simple, include one field, and then we can do the whole mapping. And I think that will be a very good output at the end. And then also I would like to say, maybe we add a line here that why not coordinate with the TRM team, just to add urban thing, and you work with us, and it will be a large umbrella of DRM team, and which is itself also contributes to a larger federation. One thing also it includes is that it advocates to include urban component in the next strategy, which is great. I think maybe this is the right time, and we should hit it really strategically with a team which is working on strategy and advocate for increasing urban programming. And we have evidence, and we talk about 37 country offices. And the last thing is, maybe the report is a bit longer, on the longer side, maybe 60 pages. Maybe if we attract the readers to read, maybe we can be a bit strategic and to market it and package it in a maybe in a shorter volume. Thank you very much. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you so much. You're right. It is a long report, but there is an executive summary and main findings version. So if anyone wants that one, it is available. But I'm really glad to hear that you had some really good takeaways from the report that are relevant to the work that you do, especially under the DRM umbrella. So thank you so much. This has been a really fantastic discussion to highlight the amazing work that you are doing in cash voucher assistance. I know I've learned a great deal about what you do, so thank you so much for being here, Aftab and Binod. I hope that you enjoyed it. We really appreciate it. So on behalf of the Urban Hub, thank you so much. And again, if anybody had any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section and we will most definitely get back to you. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for hosting.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.